Welcome to my YouTube channel. Today I'm going to be telling you about my chickens, how I look after them and when I generally get them in the year. If you've not already subscribed to my channel, if you could please do so, because you'll get lots of helpful hints and tips all throughout the year from my home garden, my allotment and also my home kitchen. Now if you want to take a look at my chickens over here, we've got 5 lovely chickens, a mixture of different varieties. I can't actually remember all the different types I've got there. We bought them during lockdown, and whereas I'd normally go for one variety, Lomans, beggars couldn't be choosers at that time, so I had to just go with what was available, and these chickens have been really productive ever since. So like I said, I've got these just after Easter. It's a really good time if you're thinking about getting chickens to get them around Easter time. The reason being is that when they start to mature and get older and lay eggs, they respond much better to the warm weather rather than getting them when you're just about to hit the cold weather. So when you get chickens, we generally get pointer lay, so they're between 16 and 20 weeks. So at that point, that's when they're likely to start laying. You don't know exactly because they're not machines, but about that time is when they're going to start laying. So like I said, we generally always get them around Easter time, and I do that because I have got them at different times of the year before, you know, later in the year, say about October or something like that. And then quite often, because the weather's so cold, they don't start laying very well, so you have to feed them all through the winter and you don't get any eggs, and that can be a little bit disheartening. Whereas when you get them around Easter time, they're only going to be like a few weeks and then they'll start laying. You'll enjoy the summer, so if they do lay a little less in the winter, it's not quite so disheartening if that's the case. Now one of the things we do is when it's really wet, obviously during the summer it's fine, it's really dry, and their run is kept really well, but in the winter and when it rains a lot, it can get really sticky under their feet. So we get a great big bale of straw, and we put it in the run. We break it up a little bit. Part of the fun of it is that they can break it up, so it gives them something to do, and it also pads the ground out, so it's not quite so unpleasant for them to put their feet in, because if their feet get really wet, they could get disease and things like that. We've got a water holder there, as you can see over there, which we keep the water in. We have to keep a bit of an eye on it, as you can see, because the chickens flick things into it, so you have to keep clearing it back out again. No sooner do you clear it and they flick stuff back in it again. And also we've got their feed there as well for their layers pellets. Now we've kind of got like a makeshift cover there, and the reason we do that is because when it rains it will go through the top and it'll make all their feed go really soggy, and that kind of protects it. So we feed them primarily layers pellets, because it's kind of like the best formulation for them. So there's just these little pellets here. So when you first get them and they're only about, you know, 16 or 18 weeks old, you give them crumb. But when they get to this age, now they're well over, you know, a couple of years old, then layers pellets would be the thing to give them. Now, it's got all the nutrients they need to lay really good eggs and to keep them really healthy. We do give them little snacks of, you know, bits of, you know, spinach and leftover vegetables and things like that. But I don't give them too much of it, because sometimes if you give them too much of that kind of thing, then their shells can get a little bit soft. So I give them a good feed of the layers pellets, and then the green stuff is more of a treat. So we do also give them a little bit of corn as well. That's something that they really enjoy. Now, to keep the chickens healthy, because quite often they can get, you know, red spider mite and other kinds of mite, and you want to make sure that your chickens stay really healthy. We tried lots and lots of different things, and the thing that we found that worked the best is this here. And it's diatomaceous earth, which is basically kind of like fossil dust. So if you take a look at it, it's just like a powder. So it looks like, you know, powdered concrete or something, but it's not. And what you do with it, I'll shake it off because I'm not going to do it now, but what you do with it is you brush it around the house, so that stops the mites. So obviously very roughly you lift it up and you go around the edges with it, you know, all around the edges and the cracks in there. Obviously I'll do it very thoroughly, and I'll go all around all the different edges and the cracks to keep bugs away. It happens more in the summer than it does the winter, so it's really worth keeping an eye out, and it's worth getting some of this because you probably will need it. One thing we've got, we made this chicken house ourselves. When I say we, my husband made it. And we've got perches in there, so the chickens can perch at night. It's a natural thing for chickens to do, to perch. You know, originally years ago they would perch in trees. So when you do a house for them, or you buy a house, it's really nice for them to have the perches, because that's where they sleep basically, and that's where they obviously feel more comfortable. Now when you first get the chickens, sometimes they go straight in when you get them, and sometimes they don't. So when you first get your chickens, the first few nights, you're going to need to bring them in to the house and put them on the perches. But after a few nights, in fact within a week probably easily, they'll all take themselves into the house at night and then take themselves back out in the morning. It's kind of like a natural thing. They're quite habitual creatures, so once you get into a good routine of going into the house, they'll just come out naturally in the morning, because that's what they'll naturally do. And one of the best investments we ever made, we made the house ourselves, but we originally just made a little drop down wooden hatch. But the problem with that is that you've got to lower it and lift it up every morning, and if you go away and you've got someone else looking after your chickens, that can be quite problematic for them. So someone recommended to me that I get an automated hatch. It's a Titan hatch, and I've had it, gosh, it must be about 10 years now, and it's one of the best investments I ever made. It cost me over £100. I will put a link in the description for some of the things that we're talking about today, in case you want to try and look at them or source these things yourself. But it's well worth the investment. It really, really is. It makes life a lot easier, because you basically set it to go down at a certain time and to lift up at a certain time, so they can come out in the morning, and that's really, really helpful indeed. So as we come round, I'll show you where they lay their eggs. Now you can put straw in their nest boxes, but you will go through quite a lot of straw, and some people say that it can harbour bugs and things if you put it in the nest box. So something I do, because we all have a lot of waste paper that obviously could be wasted, and we never really know whether things are recycled when we send them away. We shred all our paper, and in the nest box we fill it with shredded paper. So rather than having straw in the nest box, we put shredded paper. You couldn't use that in the run, otherwise it would turn into paper mache when it rained. But in the nest boxes, this works really, really well, and it's a really cheap way of doing the nest boxes, and they seem to love it as well. So as we move around, I'll show you the little nest boxes that we've got. So when we clear it out, we take the lid off and we scoop it out with a shovel. We have got a side hatch that we can use as well, but normally we can actually get it out with a really long shovel. So we made these little hatches here. It's really important there's somewhere for them to lay their eggs, and so you can easily get your eggs out. As you can see, there's the paper in there. And that dust that I was talking about, the deleterious earth, you can also, when you do their nest box, you can sprinkle a little bit of that in there as well, because that obviously they'll put a little bit on their feathers, and that will stop them from getting lots of bugs and things. So there we go, got some lovely eggs there. So generally speaking, I've got 5 hens, and I get, you know, up to 5 eggs a day, so they're laying really, really well. They're really lovely to have in the garden. They're really therapeutic, and it's really nice to get your own fresh eggs. Something else we do with our run is we cover our run with some wire, so none of the wild birds can get in, because that could cause disease if wild birds got in there and started, you know, laying things in their water and stuff like that. So covering, and also we had something called Foxgate a little while ago, and you can just imagine what happened there. We lost a lot of our chickens. Now if you have wire over the top, it's a lot more protective to the foxes. And something else to bear in mind with regards to foxes is the area around your run. You can't really see our area very well because it's been here so long, but most of it we've got concrete. So all down the side there, it's all these concrete slabs, so nothing can burrow through. And over on the other side, we've kind of got concrete going across that side as well. The only bit we really have to concern ourselves are the bits either side of the run, and every once in a while we check round to make sure nothing's burrowing in. We have got pieces of concrete underneath there both sides, and I do almost mound it up a little bit. We've never had one get in yet since we've done that, but you never know, so you do need to be constantly aware of things like foxes trying to get your chickens, and you really, really don't want that to happen. We had that happen once, and I don't particularly want it to happen ever again. Now I do hope that this has inspired you and you found it interesting to know how I look after after my chickens and to meet my chickens. If you've got chickens too and you've got any top tips, I'd love to hear them. And if you've got any questions or queries and you'd like to have chickens, then please feel free to put them in the comments and I'll do my best to answer them.